And it's already started, y'all. Check this out. We're supposed to have a polar vortex where places like Florida, where I'm at, is supposed to get snow. I don't know, for the first time ever. Are y'all ready for that, Floridians? But check this out, y'all. This is in Rocky Mountain in Colorado. The river is literally frozen. Y'all see that? Has that ever happened before? So y'all know how we're going through a pole shift? Look at this in Russia, y'all. Look, they're having an ice tsunami. The water is moving slowly towards the shore. Check this out. Y'all see that? And it mirrors what the clouds be looking like. Look at this. So this polar vortex must be causing all kinds of anomalies with snow and ice, y'all. Because this is not the only place that this is happening to. This is happening in China too, y'all. Look at this. Wow, y'all see this? Why does it look like scales? Why does it look like, why does it look like dragon scales? Fish scales. Y'all see that? This is in China. This is happening all over. Wow. The way that the colors are just bouncing off that ice, this is incredible. So yes, y'all, are you guys ready for this polar vortex? It's so weird that all of this is happening and we are at the peak of solar maximum 2025, right? It makes you wonder, what's really going on, y'all? But let me know what you guys think about this video. Like, follow, and share for more videos like this. Let's continue to get this shift. Peace.
Crazy things happening in the world right now. A man is trying to get his priceless collection of 6,000 bricks into a museum. A man was arrested after stealing almost $400,000 worth of cheddar cheese in London. The US Copyright Office has now made it so McDonald's has to legally fix their ice cream machines in an appropriate time. American Airlines is testing technology that audibly shames you if you try to cut in line. A Wisconsin pizzeria has apologized after customers accidentally got high because their pizza had THC in it. A man who went to the doctor complaining of indigestion had a live cockroach in his intestines. An employee's homemade meal at a Maryland seafood distributor caused mass food poisoning. Pizza Hut is offering to print resumes on boxes and deliver them to potential employers. An Ohio man was forced to cancel his credit card in order to escape his gym membership fees. Endangered bees are what's stopping Meta's plan for a nuclear-powered AI data.
We need to talk about what we don't know about the moon. We know it controls the tides. The tides circulate the water on the planet. It keeps the water from going stagnant, regulates the temperature on the planet, locks Earth in a tilt so we have seasons. It's tidally locked, meaning we only see one side of it because it spins at the same exact speed as the Earth does. It also fits perfectly over the sun from the perspective of Earth. It's really weird because we only see moons of our size around the gas giants. Mars has these little asteroid dudes. The gravity for the gas giants makes sense to capture a moon in orbit. This was the theory of the moon for a long time until we had the gravity problem. Then we had the giant impact hypothesis. This suggested another planet or big asteroid hit the Earth and made the moon. But if that was the case, when they hit, they would mix, creating the same density and composition, which is not true. A newer hypothesis suggests a nuclear explosion happened in the Earth and ejected the moon out. The evidence from the moon shows it got baked at some point in its history at 4,000 to 6,000 degrees Fahrenheit. This would have to be after that, and we would have to see it on the Earth as well, and we don't. There are shadows on the moon that look like towers, and these towers would have to be taller than any on the planet due to how far their shadows are cast on the moon. To figure out what the moon was made of, NASA left seismometers on the moon and dropped a lunar module onto the surface to create an artificial earthquake. The moon rang like a bell for 3 hours. When they got the data back, they found a layer of unknown material deep in the crust that they could not identify. Which makes sense, because when you look at the craters on the moon, no matter how big the crater is, they all go down to about the same depth. You don't see that on Earth. It is a perfect sphere, which is great for pictures. But think about it. To make a perfect sphere, the mass would have to be distributed equally throughout the whole thing. It's space. If it was, it would spin freely like that. But it doesn't. It's locked on one side on an axis. If it was heavier on one side, it wouldn't be round in space. So what's stabilizing it?
Okay, so if you're watching Trump, you see the Secret Service agents come in. The guy on the left gets in first. So I think the House Butler Task Force interviewed him. And they said, okay, take us through what was going on in your head in that moment. He's like, well, yeah, we heard some scuttlebutt that local police were looking at something at 3 o'clock to Trump's right. That was it. He said, and then I heard like a pop. And he said, my immediate thought was it sounded like one of those pop-it firecrackers just throw on the ground.
Exactly. It always does.
That's what I thought it was. So I thought it was a heckler in the crowd. And then I hear the second shot and I'm waiting to hear in my ear heckler. He said, and then I heard the third. By the way, he's hearing nothing in his ears at this point. So that's the point at which I go and jump on the president. We hear them kind of going over us.
And that's so. Of the 8 shots, like, where did they go? Those 8 shots.
I think they were only able to find actual bullet fragments from 2. There were 10 shots fired total. There were 8 from Crooks. There was 1 from a local law enforcement officer who shot almost simultaneously with Crooks's 8th shot. So you have 1, 2, 3, had a burst of 3, then you had a burst of 5, and then the 5 like all went high. One of them hit a hydraulic line. As Crooks fired his 8th shot, a local officer fires his gun at Crooks. He swears he got him, but there's no firing from Crooks after that point, after that 8th shot. And then 15 seconds later comes the shot that kills Crooks.
No way.
15 seconds.
I'm gonna tell you a little story. Cattle, beef, food. A lot of people don't know anything about where it comes from. So, I owned a restaurant for 10 years. Miraculous. I know. I started it with $30 in the bank and a month's worth of food stamps. I don't recommend that business model just for all you entrepreneurs. When it comes to your beef, grass-fed, organic, 99% of it is bullshit. I have my restaurant, sourced everything locally in North Carolina. The biggest organic, grass-fed, supposed like best company in Asheville is called Hickory Nut Gap. I went to a party that we catered for one of my cheese purveyors, local goat cheese. Great times. We cooked like 300 ears of corn and we were all on mushrooms. I never bought the Hickory Nut Gap meat because it was 10 times the cost of any other beef. I ran into the owner of this company. He was drunk. Their farm's way up in the mountains, and I've driven by it many times, and there was never any animals out there, a couple goats. I asked him, hey man, where do y'all keep the cows at? Well, we don't have any cows. How do you sell all this meat? He said, there's a loophole in the laws in North Carolina, probably most states, to get certified organic grass-fed cow. It has to eat grass for 6 weeks. So what they do is they buy cattle from like New Mexico, from desert food lots, where they're standing 2 feet deep in their own shit. They're eating like corn powder with fucking antibiotics and all kinds of shit in it. Super unnatural. They're packed in like sardines, dude. I've seen those kind of farms. It's nuts. They buy those cows at auction, super cheap, skinny ass cows, and then they transport them to whatever state. They stick them on grass in a barn with hay for 6 weeks, and technically it's a local, certified, organic, grass-fed cattle. That will blow your motherfucking mind. Process that. All your organics and all that's all bullshit. Took me like 3 years to find a legit local farm for my beef at my restaurant. It's a family-owned operation for over 100 years in North Carolina. The best beef I have ever had. Most tender, most flavorful beef. Even the tough cuts like sirloins and the skirt steaks are usually like rubber. Dude, straight up butter. The owner is a fabulous guy. He would pull up in his refrigerated truck and bring us pigs, all our cuts. Great company. If you're in North Carolina, look them up. Apple Brandy Farms. Took me years to find a farm that was legit in Asheville, North Carolina. Everybody thinks it's all local and organic.
What reflects the moon? I get it. It can. But you know what else can reflect the moon? Lenses, mirrors, and light manipulation. I created a hologram of the moon using just a magnifying glass, mirrors, and a light source. By placing a reflective mirror in front of the light and using a magnifying glass, I was able to bend, redirect, and distort the light, recreating the same optical effects seen in the sky. The magnifying glass acts as a lens, focusing and spreading the light in a way that makes the image appear altered, or even like it's underwater. Now here's something interesting. When telescopes zoom in, they pass through layers of manipulated light, revealing a more advanced version of the moon. This suggests that what we see with the naked eye isn't the full picture, and there's an entire system at play controlling what we perceive. And knowing what I know after all my studying of lenses and mirrors, you gain full confidence that they are using the same technology to manipulate what we see in the sky. Plus, they even have patents on it. If I can do this with just these simple tools, imagine what billions of dollars in advanced technology could create. If you want me to show you how the craters are actually part of this system, just let me know in the comments.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you. And I think to myself,
what an absolute scam.
I see skies of blue and clouds of white.
The Phoenix facility in hazmat suits as part of a multi-state investigation into the illegal trafficking. A torso with a head apparently went for $2,400. A leg about $1,100. They'd even sell knees and feet alone for under $500. And sale of human body parts. He said he found a cooler filled with male genitalia, a bucket of heads, arms, and legs, infected heads, and one of the most disturbing findings called a morbid joke in the lawsuit, a small woman's head sewn onto a large male torso like Frankenstein and hung up on the wall, with no identification tags on the bodies. Weren't treated with dignity and respect, a promise written on their own consent forms. The company also accused of selling body parts for profit after saying they'd only raid, and what he recounts
a secret shielded by cardboard and silence. When the FBI raided the Biological Resource Center in East Phoenix 5 years ago, while in the fall, the company collected bodies of people.
Surely you noticed the fire chief's last name and found it to be somewhat familiar, right? No? Maybe you've never heard of Aleister Crowley, the most wicked man to ever live. You know, the one Ozzy sings about? I mean, it's probably just a coincidence though, right? I mean, people have the same last name. It's not like they look alike or anything. I mean, so there's a minor resemblance. Still doesn't mean anything. And so the news reports about the fire talks about the battle to keep the city of angels from fully transforming into the gates of hell. And Aleister Crowley's home, who Led Zeppelin guitarist Jimmy Page bought after Aleister Crowley had it, was often referred to as the portal to hell. Just a coincidence. I mean, it's not like that house that they called the portal to hell caught fire or had anything to do with fire. And so what? Jimmy Page bought Aleister Crowley's house because he was obsessed with him and the occult, but it's not like he was some sort of Satan worshiper or anything. Have you ever heard the lyrics to Stairway to Heaven played reverse? Like I said in the beginning, though, I'm sure it's just all a big coincidence. There's nothing nefarious going on whatsoever. It's definitely just forest fires, and it's just a coincidence that her name happens to do with the most wicked man ever to live. And the news just coincidentally called it the gates of hell when Aleister Crowley lived near the portal of hell.
You know what I just realized? Joker is poker with a J. Coincidence?
Hey, that's Joe incidents with a C.
Surely you noticed the fire chief's last name and found it to be somewhat familiar.
How much is being fed in this one picture? I'm about to give y'all an occultic ride that most people aren't even aware of. So two major things point out to me when I look at this picture. One, major occultism. Why? What is she holding? And we'll come back to black magic in a minute because it all fits together. What she's holding is a jester, and you may not know how symbolically powerful the jester is. In the highest rank of occultism, you'll find the Royal Order of Jesters. I can't say too much on this, so just Google Royal Order of Jesters. But why the jester? The jester is the only figure that could deliver bad news to the king, but they also entertained the king. Entertainers, if you will. They were basically second in command to the monarch, and they were to entertain the guests at the royal court, but they did so much more than that. And they're doing the same thing today. So with her holding a jester, let's see what the jesters do in detail. Song, music, storytelling, you know, actors, musicians, etc. But also performing magic tricks or just magic. So they are elite entertainers that entertain the most powerful. But remember how we're talking about magic. Her new look is really starting to remind me of something. Something like this. High-class witches and warlocks are literally a servant to a demon. And what would you guess the deepest, darkest thoughts of a demon are? Their physical appearance does change because one of their habits. So they are being awarded a jester, partaking in every form of the jester. Entertaining the highest societies of this world. But who is the god of this world? Oh, what is this? Another award? Look at the staff it's holding. That reminds me of something. Oh yeah, that's right. The same staff right here. The same staff is right here. Again, for the god of this world. And again, the god of this world. The world is exactly the same as when we had kings and queens and they had serfs and we would live on the king's land. We live on the king's land because we pay taxes on what we own. The only difference now is the jesters don't just entertain the king, they entertain the masses. And drive all the masses to the god of this world. It's quite literally the best story ever told.
Freemasonry in Europe, it was, the groups were called circles, and you had your circle of friends. There were 5 circles of friends, America being one of them. Italy, France, Germany, England, and America. The 5 circles of friends. The European Freemasonry, the Olympiads. So that today, the Olympiad organization symbol is 5 circles, the 5 Masonic circles of friends. Of course, the Audi has only 4 circles because America's not included in that project. The torch, of course, the Olympic torch is the torch of Prometheus, the god who stole fire for the service of man. And as we said in New York, in front of Rockefeller Plaza, you'll see the statue of Prometheus. In his hand is a flame, the torch, the fire of revolution. Of course, in all universities and colleges, we find in their symbols and emblems of universities have torches standing for illumination. You go to college and university, or even graduate from high school, you come out with as we said, a black robe, which is black for Saturn, the god of Hebrews, and the square mortarboard. The square mortarboard is, of course, Freemasons use mortarboards for their plaster.
A mysterious ring has been discovered in Lithuania, and I believe that this is the same ring that J.R.R. Tolkien wrote about in his books. There have been many rumors that the Lord of the Rings were based on true stories because J.R.R. Tolkien said that when he was a boy he worked in a Catholic church and had access to sacred ancient texts that existed underneath the church that were later put into the Vatican archive that nobody else can now access. And the theory is that he actually came across a hidden history of humanity, and with that knowledge he wrote all of the Lord of the Rings, all the lore, the entire map, which is actually a place beyond one of the ice rings on this map. And this is why he had so much lore, an absurd amount of lore for each spot on the map. And it was all because he had access to these ancient books from the Vatican, pretty much. That is why at the end of the Return of the King, when everybody sails over to Valinor, there's this imagery of a boat sailing between 2 tall land masses, and those are actually supposed to be the ice walls. Something very similar to the Leviathan's Gate on this map. They actually sailed either from the outer ring or from Earth through this to go to Valinor.
Did you know that the whole world seemingly melted all around us not too far in our past? And that the melting of the entire world supposedly, allegedly, is closer to us than was closer to the building of the Ark? And this will get crazier in a minute, but anywhere you look on any continent on this earth, you will see melted buildings, melted mountains, everything is melted. Why? Why is this not documented anywhere? Well, I did find one documentation I'm about to show you. Probably the most overlooked documentation to ever exist. And coming from the most important document to ever exist. Even just pay attention to Sudan's pyramids all being charred. Charred by something. You remember when Jesus said to be more tolerable in that day for Sodom and Gomorrah than for anywhere else? Anywhere else where they reject his word. But like I said, there is one mention of everything on this earth melting, and we don't give it much thought. But the one mention of this scenario that we have in all literature says, the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. The earth and also the works that are therein shall be burned up. Let me know if you can guess what book that came from, and also on the complete other side of the spectrum. In 1587, when the map was created, there was no ice in the south. You know, the South Pole? Not only were the map makers seemingly sure of this, they were so sure they put animals down there. Where are the penguins at though? I don't see those. It wasn't until more modern history where they put ice down there. I wonder if something big happened. Kind of like it seems like something else really big happened. Questioning your reality? This video right here, it'll help.
Is that?
Baby elongated skull. And this is the mother.
This was the final post of TikToker Chris O'Donnell. He took his own life. Now, why am I making this video? That's because I want to read to you guys the last thing that he said. It's tragic. It's very sad, but I understand. I used to suffer from depression and thoughts of suicide. Let's listen to what he said. In my dream, the angel said, "Give up your attachments," to which I replied, "They're the only thing keeping me here." She leaned over and whispered, "Maybe here's not where you're supposed to be anymore. I wonder when I leave this earth, when I leave this rat race, when I'm lying here in the dirt, if you'd remember my face, #explore." So that is not the voice of an angel of the Lord. That is a demonic entity that wants you to end your life. Why? That's because the enemy hates us. God has plans for people's life, and the enemy used to whisper in my ear, telling me to end my life all the time. I'm super sad for him and his family. I hate that he made this decision. However, I want to post this because there's someone out there that may be going through the same thing, and I want you to know you're not alone.
In the telepathy tapes in one of the episodes, they talked about a telepathic parrot. Parrot has insane abilities when it comes to communication and can read the owner's mind. Well, apparently there's a video of it, and I'm about to share it.
I heard there's a parrot living in New York who apparently can sense what his owner is thinking.
Hello,
And as I walked into the room, I said, "Oh, hello, you must be Nkisi. I've heard a lot about you." And he said, "That's Jane, got a chimp." Now, he'd seen all the pictures of me in the books, and I think he'd seen a video. He had never said chimp before. He made all the right sounds. Go like that. Chimps go like that. Very good.
And we then set up a series of controlled experiments to see if the parrot really could pick up her thoughts telepathically.
Now completely separated, Amy opens up sealed envelopes containing photographs she has never seen before. One at a time, she looks at each image for 2 minutes. Are in separate rooms, 55 feet apart.
Not only would he describe that engagement. Can I have a kiss? Okay, that rings you. Okay.
Now, people talking about the telepathic abilities of animals is nothing new. Like, the vast majority of indigenous populations knew this. Shamanic healers will often work with animal spirits in their healings and communicate with them. The internet is littered with stories where people are like, "I'm pretty sure my cat can read my mind." That's why I think this podcast is so massive and why everybody should listen to it, even if you're skeptical. One, you'll never regret expanding or listening to somebody else's perspective. But number two, it highlights these abilities within these groups. Animals, nonverbal autistic individuals, healers. This is not just reserved to them. This is something that all conscious beings have within them. To experience it, you just need to dial in, tune the radio. Kai and the amazing people that she works with and showcases are merely shining a light on something that exists within all of us. We just need to remember.
Ladies and gentlemen, anybody want to tell me just what in the West hell is going on here? This man unalived his imaginary friend and then turned himself in and took the world's saddest mugshot. Yes, lock him up. Put him somewhere where nobody else can get to him and he can't get to nobody else. Hide him. Do you know what got to be going on? And y'all, I ain't picking at nobody. I'm just saying, if you took out your imaginary friend, I didn't even know you could get to them. And the police dirty, cause they turn around and booked him. He said, "Hey, I had an imaginary friend. I took him out." And they like, "Oh, hey, put your hand behind your back, player." What was his name? This going in the news. Y'all about to fill out a whole coroner report. You imagine you got an imaginary friend with a death certificate. How somebody who didn't live a real life have a real death? Certified by the state.